Alicante Lawyers. Remember always to check out the website alicantelawyers.es. Pellether and Heredia. Good to see you, Antonio.
Good to see you too.
We've had a good old long chat in the studio about what we might talk about today, including your ventures to the UK as well, which you did say that the food wasn't something that you found that brilliant when you lived in UK.
Well, not the typical British food, I guess. The fish and chips was okay, I guess. And I did like the restaurants, though. They had good options. But typical British food, probably not my cup of tea.
You don't like a Sunday brunch? A Sunday lunch even?
Not really. The roast and such.
No, not for you.
It's the boiled vegetables, I think. They don't do it for me.
The overboiled vegetables.
Yeah, that's too much.
Absolutely. So you're the expert then on property and conveyancing and things like that?
Yes, that's true. We are a team of several lawyers, as you know, and three of us, Sandra, Daniel and I, are specialised in conveyancing.
We have to talk, before we get on to anything to do with property, about the finalisation of La Renta, the tax, which has to be done by the end of this month. I know you're laughing at my Spanish up there.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. The end is nigh. The end is coming. If you're hearing this, you haven't done your tax return, your renta, then you are already running a little bit late. So you should definitely check up with whoever does this for you.
That's by the end of the month. That's when it has to be in. And also then coming up, because it's never-ending taxes, is it really? The quarterly tax comes up for people who are freelance, autonomo.
That's right. If you're a freelancer and you do your VAT invoices and such, from the 1st until the 20th of July is the time for you to do it. Also, if you are a company, you do the quarterly as well. And if you rent in a tourist fashion with a tourist license, then you can do your quarterly tax return for that if you want, unless you've chosen to do the yearly.
You can do it yearly as well. Okay.
Yes, they change it. Yes.
Plenty going on with property again in Spain. We see cranes everywhere. It's almost like we're back to pre-financial crisis times, isn't it? There is so much going on. How difficult is it for people from overseas to get their head around sorting out buying a property here? Things like we want to focus on today, powers of attorney, which you can do either from your home country or for Spain. Which is better?
Oh, that's a great question. It's true. If you live abroad and you want to buy a property here in Spain, even if you want to move here or you just wanted a holiday home or an investment, then it's typical for you to hire somebody to do it for you, normally a lawyer. Better if it's an independent lawyer. And the first thing that this person is going to tell you is, please sign me a power of attorney. Basically for the following thing, which is obtaining an NI number for you. Because you can always come for completion if the completion is set in stone, although giving a power of attorney to allow somebody to do completion for you, it's definitely a good idea. You can do the power of attorney from your home country or from Spain. The main difference is the things you can do with the power of attorney. Technically, you can do almost anything with a power of attorney. You can have somebody deputized to marry somebody on your behalf with a power of attorney. You can give a property away with a power of attorney. You can get a mortgage, sell, almost, get a digital signature, almost anything. If, depending on what the draft of the power of attorney contains. But there's a major difference between a power of attorney signed in your home country and one in Spain, and it's the NI number application. It sounds a little bit weird, but most of the times that you use a power of attorney, you use it either at the notary to buy, sell, or you use it at court to sue or reply to a lawsuit, or you use it at one of the normal offices like utility companies, tax office. All of them accept both nationals and foreign powers of attorney, but the police station. The police station is the one that issues the NI number, and they've changed the requirements. They are becoming tougher and tougher, and they no longer accept a power of attorney signed abroad unless you sign it at the Spanish consulate or embassy. They will only accept powers of attorney signed in Spain, at least here in Alicante.
Right, so that changes changes things around a little bit, because a lot of people come over, they find the property they want, they go back to their home country to either set themselves up, or to move, or even to sort out buying their holiday property.
That's true, and that's a new pressure for these prospective buyers, which is, that's exactly, you think, I'm going to buy a property in Spain, you line up with an agent, or you come on your own, depending on what kind of adventure you want, and then you see several properties. Maybe you made the decision on the spot, but maybe you do not. There's 1, 2, 3 that you like, or maybe none of them, and then you move back and you've made a mistake. If you lie from a country that is close by, you're French or you're from the Netherlands, then that's okay. You can maybe come back to give power of attorney. But if you are from further abroad, could be the UK, slightly further.
USA even.
All right, that's what I was going for. If you're Canadian, from the USA, Australian, or any of the other countries, then coming back is definitely a no-go, and then you're stuck, in which you cannot apply for your NI number easily. Either you do it at your Spanish consulate or embassy back home, or you have to come back here to give a power of attorney. So it's better for people to come already with the research already done. If you know you're going to buy something, even if you're unsure of what's going to be, it could be better to set up a meeting with your lawyer or your future lawyer, which could be very well Pellicer and Heredia, and then on that appointment, arrange to give them a power of attorney. You can instruct them not to use it at all. Obviously, they won't. Any lawyer would respect that until you give them orders. But you've planted the seed for you to be able to buy your property of your dreams later and obtain that really hard to get NI number.
And certainly you'd have to think in the current market, today's market, properties are going rather quickly, aren't they?
Yeah.
They come up and then the next day you think, wow, the sign's gone down again already.
That's right. I'm going to tell you a short story about that precisely that happened to me this week. So I had a client. She's a Dutch lady living close to Ondón de las Nieves, which is not close to Javia, but it's a small inland town alongside Alicante inland. And she was looking for a property for some time, and she found one that she liked in Ondón, and she placed an offer. Then the seller had a second offer and says, well, if you pay above market price, and maybe you get it. And she raised the price, which is already a little bit unusual. She raised the price and offered 5,000 euros more, and she got it. But the lady, the seller, freaked out because she realized she was selling the property too quickly. She only put it on the market 3 days prior, and she was wanting to sell her property to buy something else. And she couldn't find something else to buy that quickly, so she had to cancel the sale before it even started. And this woman was left without the property. Now, we move forward 3 months. The Dutch woman that was looking to buy a property doesn't find anything else that, she likes as much as she liked that property. And then the seller puts it in the market again. Probably she found another property, but has increased the price in 25,000 euros.
Yeah, of course. That's how quick the market's moving at the moment, yeah.
Now, to top up, the buyer, the Dutch woman, made the offer and got the property 3 months later than she wanted, and for 30,000 euros more. That's how crazy the market is at the time.
That's a very good example. You have to move quickly. It's strange because quite often I've heard a few stories where different agents might say, oh, look, see how quickly this could sell. I think we probably undervalued it. Let's go for more. And you get that scenario.
That's right. Because the way this... evaluating or, gauging how much a property is worth is really half science, half magic.
What people will pay.
That's right, because it's the market, isn't it? So you can, as you said, if one seller raises the price for one property, then if there is a seller's market, as there is now, and there is a shortage of properties, it will go to that price quickly because people are desperate, or they're becoming desperate because they cannot really find something that they like, and then the rest of the agents see it, or at least the same agent thought, well, if I sold this one for this price, then this one, and this one I could definitely raise. I'm going to sell them anyway, and the seller is going to be very happy. I can raise my commission because I'm making such a good sale, and so on and so forth. But it's a loop.
Yeah. Do you think the market is going to continue rising? And there's no sign of a bubble or a limit, is there yet, really?
I haven't seen it. Well, bear in mind that although I do deal with these properties, if I knew exactly how properties are going to behave, I would be filthy rich. But it looks that way, at least in my personal experience at the office, buying and selling properties, still increasing. I've rarely have encountered a property that I have a client buying that the seller paid more for it or the same amount when they bought it, even if it was only 1, 2, or 3 years ago. So yes, property prices are increasing.
When we were talking just before, you've seen some quite major increases in property prices in, say, just 3 to 4 years.
That's right, yes. There's something that I've noticed that happens particularly here in Javier, and it's that people that bought a property 2021, 2022 for any reason that, well, obviously, unbeknownst to me, they've decided to sell it, and they've bought it, let's say, for 250,000 euros, and now they're selling at least for 325,000 or 350. When you to the agent you ask, well, how about changes? You've refurbished, you've changed the kitchen, for the property to gain value. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they shrug even and say, not that I know of, they just as they bought it.
So the property's not been improved at all, but it's worth that more because the market has gone up so much.
That's right.
That's not bad, is it? It's good if you've had that as perhaps an investment, or maybe you've got 2 apartments and you're selling one of them. But if you're looking at buying in the same area, you're in the same boat, aren't you? Because basically whatever you want to buy next is going to be also at a higher price.
That's right. Doing the change of selling a property to buy one of an equivalent price with the same money no longer works. You can downsize, which is something typical to do, particularly if you're a certain age. We have in Ondon, this town I was talking about, we do rentas, which we were talking about before as well. I'm one of the persons that go there with the people at the office and, handle the clients. They are, most of them, 70 plus years old, obviously, because Ondon is an old town, an old village, and people bought there 20, 30, 40 years ago. And there's a current there, if you are 70-something and you have maybe, 4,000 or 5,000 square meter plot, which you can get in the campo, right? As the garden is going to be too much probably for you. So you're looking to downsize, sell that, and buy a small house, a small casita, or an apartment in the city centre. So you'll be closer to the shops and the streets and such, a little bit more of a life, with your fellow neighbours, and also, why not, slightly cheaper. You will get an extra. You'll sell your property, which is bigger, to an eager new buyer, and then you'll buy something cheaper, so you'll have a few extra to enjoy on your golden years.
Gives you a little bit of a nest egg as well for
yes.
later retirement.
That's true.
So I think we covered most things with power of attorney. Are there any other major differences between getting the power of attorney in Spain or getting it in your home country?
Generally, in the home country is more expensive because the notary the notary public that you visit in Germany, in the UK, in the States, wherever, is going to see that as the foreign, something that they don't normally do. And when a professional encounters something they don't normally do, they normally charge more because it's going to be more risky and more dangerous for them. And, initial work pays better. So it will be more expensive and the steps to be taken are longer. If you sign a power of attorney in Spain, it takes, maybe about an hour for the notary to be ready. Notaries are not too fast. And for you to sign it. But that's the end of it. You pay it. You'll pay 150 euros or so for a full power of attorney with everything. And that will be it. But if you pay it in your home country, it can be that amount or twice. And you still have to legalize it. You have to send it to the foreign officer equivalent. So they put an apostille of the Hague, which is a stamp saying that the notary public is entitled to sign the power of attorney. And then you have to courier to post it here to Spain. Crossing your fingers so it doesn't get lost. It does not get lost often, but it does happen.
And you've got to hope as well that the person that's doing it for you in your home country knows to cover everything that you will need for the property or for buying a property in Spain. I suppose you go with the expertise in the country that you're going to buy, I would say anyway.
Yes, and that's a very good point. What we normally do, at least in Pellicer and Heredia on those cases, we do provide the notary with a draft. A draft of the power of attorney, double column in Spanish and in English. Right. If the country is not an English-speaking country, for example, notaries in Poland are known for not signing documents that are not just in Polish, then it can be a little bit more complicated because you have to have the draft for the power done in Polish, which we have, of course, but then it has to get translated back with a professional sworn translator, and that has also a cost.
Of course.
Polish is an expensive language to translate from, so, we're looking about another 200, 300 euros in costs.
And actually, you mentioned Polish there. The Polish economy, despite all of the political issues it's been experiencing over the past year or so, is actually doing quite well. In fact, doing better than Spain in some cases. So therefore, we've seen quite an influx of Polish buyers, haven't we? Especially on the Costa Blanca.
I definitely agree. I think it's a combination of two things. First, Ukraine is still as it is. So definitely that gives an impulse.
On the border with Ukraine.
Of course,
a big
Poland
worry,
is right in the border. So I'm sure people are thinking, what if Putin gets a missile wrong in the wrong turn and it arrives here? And also, they have a lot of people coming, a lot of panic, tension, stress. And people, if they can, they want to live a life without stress. So we had an influx of people from Poland buying here, thinking, well, I think I'm going to winter here. Because if you remember, on the first year of the war, there was a shortage of fossil fuels, and
Indeed.
people were thinking that the heating was not going to be, because we couldn't buy gas from Russia anymore,
True.
that you couldn't get heating. And here, when it's winter, you may get in the low single digits, maybe, but...
Yeah, the houses could be quite cold here, Antonio. Come on, you know that.
But think about Poland.
Yeah, absolutely.
In deep winter.
There was a big difference in fuel. Yeah, absolutely.
So we got a lot of people buying here, and I think they've loved it. The country is in good shape financially, it looks like. So we had a big influx of young people, Polish professionals buying a second home.
Well, yeah, post-pandemic, we have that situation anyway with the nomad visa. So,
That's true.
Yeah, definitely.
That's definitely true.
Talking about property, and you've gone into an area which I don't really know very much about for our second part of the chat today. And you're talking about different types of property and specifically older properties which have perhaps different types of plumbing and so on. I didn't know this is something that a lawyer would end up dealing with.
Well, you could be surprised. But yes, technically, if you buy a property, as part of the due diligence, you have to find out if it's connected to the mains or not. So if it has water supply, or it's connected to the sewage system. If it is, then, well, that's probably the end of my job.
And I guess, with an apartment, you don't really generally worry about that because it's in town.
That's true.
If it's on a big urbanization, generally it's all linked up. But if you're looking at sort of more rural areas.
That's right, yes. And not only more rural, but here in Javi, if you go to El Tosalet or some parts, which is technically not really the campo, as you could think about Jalón or,
Yes.
Or Giber, or one of the Castel de Castels, or one of the cities towns that are inland. We here, even in Javier, you can find plenty of properties
Really?
that are not connected to the mains. So that's what has to be one of the things. But yeah, as you said, an apartment is not an issue. But if you're buying a plot, you have a single family house, a chalet, or a country house, something like that, you have to know. If it's connected to the water and the sewage, then that's more or less the end of it. Lawyers normally for the due diligence don't get into how the plumbing inside the house is, generally. But let's imagine it's not, right? For the sake of the argument, because if not, then we finish with the topic. Yeah. Let's imagine the property doesn't have a water connection. Then that, obviously, in Javier, I don't think you will find, but you can find it in Giver or something like that. If that is the case, then you have to install a water tank, right? Mm-hmm. But the water tank may be already installed at the property when you buy it. But the problem is the code, the urban code that allows you which kind of a structure you can have or you cannot have.
It's a structure that goes underground, presumably.
Aha, that's true. Now they have to go underground. They have to have a specific, characteristics. So the water that's contained inside remains sterile, I guess, or, drinkable water at least. Mm-hmm. But there's plenty of them that they used to be done years ago with a special insulation, and they're placed not exactly on top of the land, but they protrude, they raise up a little
ground,
bit, a little bit. So it's like having a half out, and most of those are not up to code, which means that technically the property that you're going to buy won't get, and hear this, a second occupation license, which is one of these papers that you should get to when you buy a property. I'll talk more about this in a second. Mm-hmm. But that's half of it. The other half is, how do you get the water in and how do you get it out when it's used? The classic system is the soak away, right? I call it here Pozo Negro or Fosso Negro. So that is
dark water.
Yeah.
Brown water, we call it.
Yeah, that's right, brown water. That's right. So that is just kind of a place in which you put the brown water in and then either it lets it out or you filter something. Or that can work perfectly well and be okay for you for usage, but it's probably 95% sure not up to code. Again, that will prevent you from having the second occupation license. Instead of that, you should have a different thing installed in. either a septic tank, which is just, like not plastic, but plastic thingy that you install underground, and it gets the water, the brown water in. It does not get anything out, and then you get a service once or twice per year, depending on the usage, to come in, clean it or whatever, and then go away. That's the cheapest version, and it requires maintenance, which is a little bit of a drag, but it will get you up to code, and it won't sink you too much in debt. The fancy thing, I don't know the name in English, but in Spanish it's called tanque de oxidación total. What it does, which probably where the explanation...
Sounds like the oxidization word is in there.
Yeah.
Vinny's in the studio. We're looking for his Spanish translation here, but he's too involved in filming, I think.
Anyway, so this thing is a more complex machine. So it has, in fact, electricity in it, and it's a machine. You put the brown water in one end, it does process that, it's magic, and then on the other side, it comes a little bit of a sludge, let's say, which is perfectly fine to be in the land. That is the thing. That's what the code asks for people to do now, to having their property greener and not pollute the land where it's in, which with a soak away, it looks like that's going to be the case.
I see.
Now, the second occupation license we're talking about, what's that about?
Yeah, why is it a second occupation?
Right. When you build a house for the very first time, it's a brand new house, you get a habitation certificate, cédula de habitabilidad in Spanish, but after 10 years, it expires. And generally, you get that renewed, and the document has several names, but the classic name, or the one that everybody knows it for, although it can take several forms, is the second occupation license.
Right.
And that is worth for several things. On some instances, you needed to change the utilities. In other instances, you need it, and for sure, for the tourist license. Aha! So there you go. So if you buy a house and say, oh, this is going to be a great investment, it's slightly off the road, and it's not connected to the mains, but, it's just beautiful. And it has, 2 stories, I can rent it to a family, I'm going to make a killing. I need a tourist license. What, a soakaway what? And I cannot get the license for what? And I have to spend how much? If you do your due diligence before, you have already probably told the agent that you really want to, what you want the property for, and you want to rent it out, or you want to change the electricity or whatever, then the agent should have told you, but probably they didn't, to tell you how about the water and sewage situation is. But if not, if you don't have an independent lawyer, you end up buying it as is, then you are the one that has got to foot the bill to replace that in order to get the second occupation.
So this is kind of where it would go wrong if you were perhaps to say just use the lawyer that the people who are selling the property are using. Because we hear about this though.
Well, I guess we hear about everything, but yes, that's a bad idea. You should get your own independent lawyer, somebody that will work just for you, not for the agent, not for the seller, for you. When a client comes to me and tells me, Antonio, I love this property, can I buy it? And then I'll take a look, and my reply won't be based on how starry the eyes of the buyer are. If it's, if it's full of dreams, no, it's going to be dry fact. It's like, yeah, I shouldn't buy it. It has got these and these and these. If you buy it, you have to pay these, or it cannot be bought because it's dangerous. The client may, think it twice. I won't care either way. Is how life is. I prefer for a person not to buy a property that cannot really be sold, safely. Or if they do, they have to do it fully informed of what they're doing. I'm perfectly fine with a client buying a property I've told them not to buy, because now they know. So they are buying something, adjusting the price or their expectations or whatever.
So they may need to change the sewage system to the new one that you were highlighting, but they at least know that it's got one of the older systems in
That's
place.
Right, but you balance both options. You think, well, but it is a really good price. If I had to spend an extra 6, 7, 8,000 euros to update the soakaway into a septic tank, still it's worth it. Or maybe not. Maybe you're on a tight budget and you really need it, or you really is upsetting for you to think that this agent that was so nice to you, invited you to dinner and drinks for a couple of days, dine and wine you, as they say, and now they ruthlessly stabbed you in the back by not telling you this information.
So some drawbacks then if you're buying an older property or something that's a little bit further out than the mainstream, and things that you definitely want to make sure that your lawyer looks at before you sign anything.
That's right. There's always something. I have a joke with one of the people at the firm, Tamsin. Whenever I do a conveyance with her, I will say, "Oh, this one looks like it's going to be an easy one," and she always berates me. Says, "Don't say that, Antonio. There's always something," and there's always something. Either there's a problem with the seller, there's a problem with the house. It could be the soakaway, the septic tank, the community of owners. There's a mortgage. There's an embargo on the property. Could be anything. So you always have to, even if it looks like a simple purchase, there is no such thing.
Talking about different things to do with property, and Dave has said that I'm a property owner. I don't want my children to sell the house. They love it here anyway, and they'll keep it and share it. My question is, how do I transfer the house to them? Are there taxes when it's transferred and not sold?
That's an excellent question. You can do that, definitely. You could give your property away as a gift to your kids. They will pay taxes. Well, you will pay taxes on their behalf because technically it's free for them, depending on how many kids you have and how much the property is worth. But from the top of my head, I don't think that's the best solution. I think the best solution could be for you to put the property in the will, or just make a will in which you state that you want the property to be divided equally among your children. I understand that the person that made the question is British, so that means that they can do whatever they want with the will, and they'll get a better tax exemption. If the person that owns the property gives it to a family member like the kids, they get 100,000 euros free of tax each of the kids. So if it's 2 kids and the property is worth 200,000 euros, then there's no tax. If the person bequeathing, giving away the property, on the will, it's a Spanish resident, not Spanish national, but resident here, pay the taxes and they do the renta, by the way, remember the deadline, and so on, then on top of the 100,000 euros, if they live at the property, each one of the heirs will get extra 150,000 euros off the tax base if they keep the property at least for 5 years. So that looks like it's going to be the best solution for David, because he says the kids don't want to sell the property. So even if they doesn't have only 1 kid or 2 and the property is really, expensive property, they'll probably pay either no tax or a very low amount of tax. It's 250,000 euros discount per person inheriting, so that's quite a lot.
Sounds like good news, doesn't it? Absolutely. And we'll pass on your details so that Dave can get in touch if he wants to find out more about that. Thanks, Antonio. You wanted to talk a little bit about, so we've got a bit of time to mention tourist licenses. Oh, yeah. Alicante City, Altea, Valencia City perhaps next are bringing in some new rules.
That's right. It has always, this is a conversation we've been having every year since 2018, in which the first ones, they were Barcelona with the new mayor they had back in the day, decided that enough was enough, and there were strikes and campaigns against, massive tourists.
Yeah, we've seen it in a number of different parts of the country recently.
That's
again,
right.
Yeah.
Valencia is complaining about the cruise ships. They said that they got too many, and people come with these mega boats, and that's what they want to ban. The mega boats being able to land in Valencia and drop several thousand people in one day, which obviously wreaks havoc in the city. Altea, what's done is they've closed off the tap on giving tourist licenses. To obtain a tourist license, just to summarize, is different in every county. So Comunidad Valenciana has one system, Mallorca and the islands have another one, and Catalonia has another one, and so on and so forth. But the one that we have here in Alicante is a 2-step program. You get first approval by the town hall that you can get a license, and then you send it to the Valencia central government and they'll give you the license then. But what the town halls are doing is selecting which neighborhoods, or in the case of Altea, the whole city, they are going to give them the approval for. So Altea has decided for the 1 year, at least, while they'll think things over and they decide if it's right for them to issue more licenses, that they're closing off entirely giving licenses out. Please, this is just for 1 year so far. Who knows what will happen in the future? And it does not affect if you currently have a license. Let's imagine you have a house in Altea, which has happened to us recently, by the way, and you are looking to sell it, and the property, or you're looking to buy it, and the property already has a license. Then that means nothing, because you can get the license changed to the new owner, regardless of the prohibition by the town hall, because changing the ownership of the license, that does not require the approval by the town hall. It's just the Valencia government they want to decide, and they haven't said anything about transferring.
I guess it's something that we're going to be talking about quite a bit more in the future because it'll change. But Antonio's the property expert at Pellicer and Heredia, as I mentioned, alicantilawyers.es, and you can see the website in various different languages there. Been great to talk to you, Antonio, today. Thank you very much indeed.
An absolute
very
pleasure.
Interesting, and I've learned quite a bit that I didn't know.
An absolute pleasure.